Game number 3, which is ready to get underway as the Delhi are once again going to appear now in the hands of PuppyPaw. Let's see what they can achieve.
Spawning on the southern part of the map, it is going to be VortiX in command of the French in blue, and on the north, PuppyPaw picking his favorite civilization. He opts to go for the Delhi Sultanate in red.
It's interesting that we kind of started labeling it as his favorite civ as well. Like, I always kind of felt that the Abbasids was their favorite civ. I think it's actually like, if he does win this, and we interview him, I think I'm going to ask him that, like, what is your favorite civ to play? Not what's the most powerful, because him and Wham, like, the Abbasids has to be their most played civ across all their Smurf accounts. So I'm still excited to see that coming out. And I'm excited to see if VortiX gets into that as well, because our theory is that the English will be the last civ left over at the end of this. And keep in mind, this is a best of 7, and we banned one out. So the English still have to come out somewhere. And at this stage, we are ticking off a lot of the strong civs, right? The Delhi are going to be gone. Someone's used Mongols. The French now being ticked off as well. This is where things start to get spicy.
Does English have to be ticked off somewhere though? Because in the best of 7, you can leave one civilization out if we go all the way to 7 games. And honestly, I could see English being the one missing out.
No, but what about the Rus? They're already missing out, Lidakor.
Truth be told, indeed, I completely forgot about the Rus out there.
You were hoping we were going to get it, weren't you? You're so used to seeing Rus
I was
everywhere.
hoping a Rus for a Rus. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. So you have to pop out English somewhere, indeed. Likely for Highview then.
Yeah, like I think like Highview is a possibility, or if someone you interestingly raised is like they might go for HRE on Frisian, and then all of a sudden you don't have HRE for Danube. So that's something to think about. But you know what? Let's think about what's happening in this game, because early on we have to think who's going to have the dictated pace. The interesting thing about this matchup is it's not one-sided in favor of the French, right? We've seen that Delhi, through sheer numbers, can actually end up being the aggressor in this specific Civ matchup.
Indeed, both of these civilizations are tempo-aggressive civilizations, so when they are not fighting against each other, they're both usually the civilizations that set the tone of the game, that set the tempo of the game. But in this matchup, it remains to be seen who's gonna be the tempo setter. I don't know, I think it's gonna come down to 2 things. First, scouting, and 2, unit compositions. Because oftentimes you see the French going for the Knights Archer unit composition that gets beaten by Spearman Horsemen. So one has to wonder whether VortiX will change it up, and if he does, whether PuppyPaw will spot it in time to respond.
Another thing that can actually dictate the flow is spawn. Generation here. I mean, you have to think about where the berries are for PuppyPaw. He doesn't have the safest berries, and he doesn't have choke points to work with. You know, it's very hard. If it wasn't for the fact that we put map Lipany next to that radar in the bottom right, sometimes we wouldn't be able to tell, because if you took a look at this map, it doesn't look very Lipany-ish right now, does it, Lida? Oh, sorry, that's correct, cool.
Yeah, that's the
wow,
cliff.
one mountain, there we go, woohoo! Dude, this is like when you go to the, like the ice cream parlor, and you're like, and I'd like some hundreds and thousands on top, and you don't even get 100 on top, you just get like 12.
No, it's like when you go to the ice cream shop and it's like, okay, I want strawberry, I want vanilla, and I want, I don't know, coffee. And then the guy's just standing there saying, all we have is chocolate.
I mean, at that point, I'm going to like shake his hand and say, thank God you stopped me from getting coffee. You're smart.
As you said, the thing is that it's one thing that the berries are spawning bad here for PuppyPaw. Yeah. The bigger concern is that there is no natural choke points. It's not like they are hidden behind 2 forests where you can vault it off. They are out in the middle of the field, in the middle of nowhere, which is the dream for the French, who love to just send out groups of knights to raid your berries.
Yeah, this is like a very weird spawn, because usually one thing that feels good to have against the French is this bridgeable tree line from the north and the east side of his base. Problem is, like, it's bridging and blocking the direction you need to go in for more berries anyway. So, like, it doesn't feel good to be PuppyPaw right here. I think for him, it's key that he gets up to, like, 10 or 11 horsemen quick here. Otherwise, VortiX is just going to get to dictate how they fight.
Speaking of spawns, though, the gold on the front could be a source of concern for VortiX, though, because that gold is very much on the front. There's a backup gold to the back, which can even be walled off thanks to those cliffs. But as much as the berry spawn is concerning for PuppyPaw, the gold spawn is also a source of concern for VortiX.
Yeah, that's kind of fun to like look at, and the interesting part that maybe makes it funner for people is no one's building outposts. Look at this, Lidakor. Both players have forward spawning golds, but no one's outpost rushing each other. Is it because these are the two civs that do it the least? Yes, yes, that's probably it. I can't actually think of any civs that do outpost rushing less in this game than these two specifically
How
on the
about
screen right now.
Abacids?
No, they do it now. I'm sorry to break it to you, and welcome to your pub games. Just ask Donati. He'll give you the guide. Like, how else are you going to win with the Abacids?
I love the little touch that PuppyPaw had to get the Textiles upgrade over here. This is something that you usually only get when your villagers start dying, and he preemptively got that, made sure that even if those knights are successful charging in, it's gonna be difficult for them to finish off a single villager here from PuppyPaw.
Yeah, I think it's good to get it if you think a unit's going to die. And let's be real. Like, you can be as confident as you want in your gameplay and how perfectly you can play things. If you're against a French player and you're like, it's not worth it. I think I'm good enough to keep all my villagers alive. Pull your head out of your ass.
Worth it.
It's a French player.
If there's any civ against which is worth it, it is going to be the French.
Definitely. Because they rely on that, right? Like, they do slowly creep up more villages, but in reality, if they can't snipe any, they look pretty pitiful because although they get economical discounts, they don't have any big eco booster per se. Although they're going to try and boost their eco because it looks like VortiX, I wonder if he's going to do this backward stone, so he's going for the secondary TC in this game. Wait, I'm sorry, I just finished my thought there. I noticed that. In a game where he has to pay for it, VortiX gets wheelbarrow. I'm just done. I'm done.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I mean, truth be told, he doesn't have to pay full price. It's a discounted price.
He didn't have to pay anything last game.
I know, and I didn't say I was happy about it. Ooh, that's a very much forward-looking town center, though. You gotta be careful with your VortiX, because you could get punished for such an exposed town center in the future, easily.
Ooh, I actually really don't like this town center. I like the idea, but I don't like the spot. So the idea is that you can play quite aggressively forward towards like center mass control. And I love the idea of using the stealth forest to hide this TC. What I don't like Lidakor is he's built it on the side of the map, mainly because there's deer there admittedly, that has 2 sacred sites on. So even if this scout didn't spot it now, it would be spotted within the next 20 seconds because this is the side of the map PuppyPaw wants to play towards.
And there is a stealth forest right next to it as well, which is an added concern. Town centers cannot see into the stealth forest, so not only will PuppyPaw play this side, PuppyPaw will likely play with that stealth forest hiding his forces, so VortiX, he could be surprised at any given moment in this game with a bunch of units popping out of that forest, rushing down his villagers and TC there.
Yeah, I don't know what the term is for Europeans and Americans. We call them bungalows. 1-story buildings is what these TCs are. They don't have a second story. You can go up and peer out the windows and go, wow, I can see everything from here. No, you really are as blind as possible. Like, even if you drop a town center right next to it, it's like me when I take my glasses off. I can't see anything.
Although, even a second story wouldn't save you from battering rams, let's be honest.
That's true. The battering rams would be a problem to like consider here, but usually like, I feel like I see Delhi going rams early on. Have you ever noticed how Delhi are never in a rush to unlock siege engineering? They'll literally take every single other tech first, as if it's like the biggest pile of dirt available to them.
It's funny, as you just said, it's like Delhi's never in a rush to get siege engineering, as if they had a chance to rush that tech.
In fairness to him, right, he isn't building range units, and I haven't got a good justification for not getting like melee defense. Knights are going to kill you anyway. I guess that's the defense here for PuppyPaw, unless you have textiles. There you go. That's why he doesn't need melee resistance.
Another single sacred site captured so far by PuppyPaw. Nice move from VortiX to deny them as much as possible, but it's not going to last forever. At some point, those scholars will start capping sacred sites, and we have seen that that's where the real power of the Delhi is unlocked.
Do you think VortiX, like, this TC, because it's good value, like, you know how some people try to hide their town center? Was this just kind of him going, like, full disclosure at the beginning of this relationship, all right? I've really, really got a thing for town centers. I know you got a thing for sacred sites. Let's see if we can make it work. Cards on the table on the first day.
It's funny because when I started seeing him mining stone, I was like, okay, what is the possibility of him dropping a town center on a sacred site? And it's not directly on the sacred side, but it's rather close to it, so I wasn't far away from the truth, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you could maybe... you know what? He's the French. The French are obsessed with English. English is obsessed with the French. Right now, he's dreaming of having Lombos sitting on top of the buildings firing, but that's not the way it works, I'm afraid. Like, you can't get that type of range, so... It'll be hard to block PuppyPaw indefinitely, but the cool thing is he can actually extend his base out this way and then can reinforce a fight in that area.
Oh no, no,
Problem,
no, no, no!
is this... Whoops!
This is what happens when you have to have such a delicate micro. VortiX had to micro his units for so long, like dancing around the knights, trying to maintain neutrality on those sacred sites, avoiding the spears, and he did not notice the horsemen sweeping in. And you gotta love that for PuppyPaw, because this essentially evens out the villager count, and he's out here for more blood. One has to wonder if VortiX will notice it this time around.
And I just gotta give him credit. Like, PuppyPaw, even I've seen so many players in this matchup, even when they have this sort of position where their opponent is eco booming up, they struggle to be aggressive. Yet PuppyPaw has just pulled off 4 horsemen, and started diving in. And he's getting value because VortiX hasn't got textiles, and French players don't expect to be on the defensive. But right now, that's all you're doing right now, VortiX, is trying to hold next to this sacred site, and even that is starting to fall apart and will begin to break because siege engineering is going to be done in less than half a minute now, and this spear's there ready to build them up.
And VortiX is forced to defend this location. It is just so vital. Half of his food eco is here, the sacred site is here. He is forced to defend this, but it means that he's leaving his base alone.
No, that's not true. That's not true, Lidakor. All right, it's not alone. It's like, you know, when you go away from you go away in that drama, you get the protagonist goes away from his loved one, and there's like that sleazy next door neighbor's like, but don't worry, I'm here. She's not alone. Like, that's what's happening right here. PuppyPaw is just slipping. He's like, don't worry, your villagers are totally safe with me, like a fox slipping into the henhouse.
Indeed, fox in a henhouse it is. Finally, the fox got cleaned up by the hero knight out there, but this is the other thing that we need to highlight, and this is something that you talk a lot about when we're taking a look at both the French and the Delhi. You love to play with pocket ecos when you have the map control. And this is something that we commonly see from French, not so much from the Delhi, but this time around, because PuppyPaw is confident that VortiX is on the defensive, he can afford to go for pocket ecos, and it's benefiting him greatly.
I'm glad you specified. I tend to talk a lot in general, so it's nice to get what you're talking about. And it's cool in this matchup because both civs like to play pocket ecos. Like, Delhi players have started to wake up and realize they can do it well, and French players historically have been the most consistent in doing it. So it's quite refreshing that more people are blocking this. I'd say about a month ago, it was actually quite common because people were trying to delay going farms. But now, like, the way they'd done it back then, they felt a need to guard it. If you were able to press your opponent into his base, you shouldn't need to guard it. Because even if they go for trades against you economically, you can out-trade them because you're already holding their base hostage.
Offense is the best defense, that's the concept over there. And also, it is the concept for VortiX over here, launching a counterattack towards the gold mine, but keep in mind, he did not have vision on PuppyPaw's forces. Knights, looks like villagers will jump into the TC. These guys could get surrounded though, because here comes the backstab.
He's out in the middle of no man's land, nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and the shellacking will begin. Horseman closing upon him, archers trading out, Knight's now covering the backstab, but PuppyPaw can back up into his base safely. And off the back of this, remember, he has 2 sacred sites. So all he's doing right now is baiting VortiX in this location while he starts to stockpile more gold than Switzerland.
Spearmen not on the battle right now. They were guarding the scholars on the north. They're slowly getting back in here, but as you said, the key thing here is that VortiX is forced to take a fight at a seemingly meaningless location on the map, while PuppyPaw is sitting on 2 sacred sites himself. And as VortiX is disengaging, he could be surprised here by the spearmen if they are in the stealth forest. Instead, they are right now camping on the sacred sites. A couple of stragglers getting intercepted here as well by PuppyPaw. He's taking good and efficient trades. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's still getting good trades there. Like, you just killed a knight, you're going to lose like 2, maybe 3 spearmen max. That's still a good trade, and that buys time for the horsemen to arrive. Horsemen that haven't fully healed up, but there's not much of a front line for VortiX to hold here. He has to peel back, and this could easily end up turning into 3 sacred sites in the coming minutes if he doesn't bulk up fast.
But it's difficult to bulk up, because if you take a look at the villager count, there is barely a difference between the 2 players. This is the added effect of 2 things. As you said, the raids before, but also keep in mind that this forward town center, which has been garrisoned with villagers for so long, that's a key part of the food eco for VortiX. So he's strained on food right now. He has to turn it into archers, knights, and also many of his food villagers are idle. he's struggling for food, and that's probably part of the reason why he is not spectacular when it comes to the villager count.
I'm glad you highlighted the villager situation. I wanted to do one of those kind of like opticians type tests with you. Like, you know, just quickly take your finger and cover over that second TC that VortiX has on your minimap. How do you feel about the eco count right now? It looks good, right? It looks like PuppyPaw's lost a few villages and, you know, it's just French scaling. All right, now take your finger away and try not to scream because we're 15 minutes in the game. This is a fast TC and he's really not that far ahead.
And if you take a finger away from the top bars, you will also notice that not only does that is the case, PuppyPaw also has all the feudal age economy upgrades because he's playing Delhi. Whereas for VortiX, no lumberjacking upgrade, no mining upgrade, no food gathering upgrade, none of those are there for VortiX. So his villager lead, even though it's already very small, is completely offset by the more efficient economy of PuppyPaw here, and of course the sacred sites.
No, because those sacred sites, because the efficiency, the good trades, PuppyPaw still having the military pop cap lead is going to tech up ahead of VortiX, and now it gets quite troublesome. I believe it was a house of learning, which means we have to think about home blades. Home blades, which means that it's going to be critical that VortiX gets his charges off at the beginning of his fights, because if he doesn't, his knights will not get their bonus damage, and they will be out-damaged by the Lancers of PuppyPaw.
Indeed, as you said, it's gonna be a Lancer-focused approach, but we will see some elephants out there, and if you think about it, that's the right thing to do. You have a straight line towards the enemy base, you gotta go for the elephants, but there is something else happening here. Looks like VortiX, he needs to force a fight here before the Castle Age upgrades come in.
He's running away. PuppyPaw able to just disengage quickly here. Will leave 5 of his villagers behind, but you see he's waiting. He's biding his time. Tech up's a slow at the beginning of this age for the Delhi. He wants to just start stacking up the Lancers so he has a quick way of diving in. And while this is happening off the back of it, PuppyPaw, with the patented trick for the Delhi, already has 3 relics on the way back to base and 2 of them about to already be banged.
Villagers will be slain here on the towers, so that villager gap is going to widen for the time being. For PuppyPaw, he's fine with this. He just wants to buy time for himself. He needs time for Castle Age upgrades. This Lancer has suicidal thoughts, apparently. VortiX might not give him time, though. VortiX might be going in here for the kill.
PuppyPaw is going to be forced to fight soon. He's trying to get a few spearmen out into the mix as well on these choke points. Archer's starting to dive in. No chance of going towards Mangonels either, but he's trying to wait for 1 or 2 techs before he fights here. Starts to advance out. Horseman, gap closing alongside the Lancers. That's going to force him back. VortiX with the starter step, still getting good trades against the spears, but not really getting the true dent yet. Remember that behind this, PuppyPaw's eco is still working tirelessly around the clock. The only way this is good for VortiX is if he can now peel off some knights and snipe some villagers to the north side.
Yeah, he kind of needs to do that. He can't push this one directly. There is multiple towers. Look at that. Like, that's the pocket ego he needs to hit. But if you take a look at the unit composition of VortiX, how many scouts do you see? 0. Archers, knights only. He is very limited on the vision. Now, he could still send a couple of knights to probe the berries, but he needs every single knight here on the battlefield. This is the problem for him. He sends the knights to the north, PuppyPaw moves out with his own knights and horsemen, and he's going to hit that forward TC. Oh no.
Hello?
Oh no. This could be terrible.
Okay.
This could be
Sure how to say
terrible.
what in French? Are you okay? Are you okay, little French people? Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, there goes the villager lead.
Uh-oh. And he's getting body blocked. He'll make his way out. Not quite enough horsemen to block him in indefinitely, but several
He might
villagers
show
going
gold
down.
miners to them.
But luckily the knights are coming across. But the bad news, unluckily for VortiX, this means he's offset his aggression. And that's now going to give time for PuppyPaw to catch up. Keep in mind throughout all this, Homeblades has been researching. We're probably about 2.5 minutes away from that being complete, at which stage the Lancers can run rampant into your knight lines.
And I love what PuppyPaw is doing over here, sending a couple of horsemen to the back of the enemy base. The easiest way to relieve pressure on your own base is pressure the enemy. And now you see the Lancers are coming out. 13 Lancers for VortiX, 8 only for PuppyPaw. But of course you do have 11 Scholars backing those 8 Lancers up. So it evens out pretty much. And if this fight is lost here by VortiX, he is going to lose a ton of villagers as well.
This could easily be a loss as well, because you mentioned those Scholars. Those Scholars now have Herbal Medicine complete. They're juiced up. Licensed to heal. Spread out
the
here.
wraparound.
Lancers going wide enough for the Scholars. The Heal Boys come in. They need to be targeted down and
Focus.
fast. That's
Beautiful
gonna give the
focus
trades
coming
over.
in here.
Scholars, they heal each other through it. The Archers is the only thing he can kill right now. Lancers are starting to fall to the Knights, but this trade doesn't look like it's going to be good enough for VortiX to pivot off it if the Knights die first. Scholars, last left alive. Good micro coming out, but the Archers are minimizing the amount of Archers remaining. And while this is happening, keep in mind PuppyPaw, those Horsemen are in the wood line. They're in VortiX's base right now. They're shrinking his eco and stabbing him on the backside.
And this is not something that VortiX is noticing. VortiX took the best possible fight over here. He's wiping out the army of PuppyPaw, but look at the villager count drop. It was in the mid-70s just a couple of minutes ago. Now it's down to 65.
My goodness.
VortiX is not noticing his villagers being slain behind this.
Look at the bodies! Smokes. Look at the bodies! The 4 musketeers! I know, they defected from the French, but it happened here. PuppyPaw is about to even up the villager count, and VortiX still doesn't know!
And he will never notice! Because why would you look at your own base? You hear the attack notifications, but you become immune to them when you listen to them for so long. Finally, he's going to notice it as the Lancers sweep in, but it's too little too late. And he instantly taps out!
There's more corpses than there's trees! GG, PuppyPaw blitzing it, now 1 away from making it to Wololo.
Has to be a heartbreaking defeat here as well for VortiX. He just won a decisive engagement, killed numerous scholars, cleaned up most of the Lancers. It really seemed like after that engagement, VortiX will have the option to push that massive pocket eco that PuppyPaw had. But one thing that VortiX did not notice is his villagers getting slain. And as Core is showing to us, that villager graph tells the whole story. VortiX, having his entire eco collapsed in a blink of an eye, has to tap out and forfeits game number 3 as well in the favor of PuppyPaw. PuppyPaw moves on to match point.